That day, the entire city suddenly went mad. People ran, people screamed, people believed in things that didn't exist. And the scariest part was, no one knew why. You think you'd stay calm? Trust me, you'd run too. At 8:03 a.m., the city is normal. Coffee, footsteps, a cart rolling over stone, someone arguing about bread prices like it's the most important thing on earth. At 8:04 a.m., something tiny happens. A look, a whisper, a rumor-shaped sound that doesn't even have words yet. At 8:05 a.m., the city begins to tilt. Because panic doesn't need proof. Panic only needs permission. And once one person gives it permission, once one person looks scared enough, everybody else starts checking their own fear like it's a notification. This is the day a city went insane. Not because the streets changed, because the people did. We're time traveling through real moments when entire communities flipped. Mass panic, mass hysteria, mass chaos, where the why never fully matched the reaction. And you're going to feel it in your bones. Fear is contagious, and crowds spread it faster than fire. Story 1. A city that started dancing and could not stop. Strasbourg, a hot summer, the kind of heat that makes your thoughts sticky. One woman steps into the street. She begins to dance. Not a cute dance, not a festival dance, a desperate, involuntary, full-body spasm that looks like joy from far away until you get close enough to see her face. Her eyes aren't celebrating, they're pleading. People gather, confused, amused, nervous. Someone laughs, someone claps. Someone says the sentence that always starts disasters. It's probably nothing. Then another person joins in, then another. Not because music is playing, because humans mirror humans. Because you watch a person move like that, and your brain whispers, what if it's catching? And then the city does the worst thing possible. It pays attention. When enough eyes lock onto an event, the event becomes a stage, and a stage demands a performance. By noon, multiple people are dancing. By evening, it's dozens. Some are crying while they dance. Some are gasping like they're drowning on dry land. Some are smiling in a way that doesn't reach the eyes, like their face forgot which emotion to wear. This is where you think, okay, surely they'll stop. But that's the trap. You keep thinking the crowd has a brake pedal. Crowds don't have brakes. Crowds have momentum. The authorities try to solve it in the most human way possible. They create an explanation. They say it's a curse. They say it's a spiritual sickness. They say the dancers need to dance it out. And because the city believes the story becomes fuel. More people join. The sight of the dancers becomes a signal. The signal becomes a trigger. The city tries to help by making it easier to dance. They clear space. They bring musicians. Yes, musicians. They put drums and pipes next to a growing epidemic of unstoppable movement, like handing gasoline to a fire and calling it warmth. And now the whole street looks like a festival in hell. Bodies moving until feet bleed, knees buck. People collapse and get dragged aside. A new dancer steps in, like the street is recruiting replacements. The panic isn't just, why are they dancing? The panic is, if a human can lose control of their body like this, what else can they lose? Now picture living there. You wake up and you hear it. The stomp, the wheeze, the steady rhythm of people not stopping. Your neighbor says it's a curse. Your cousin says it's sickness. A priest says it's punishment, and your brain, your poor, fragile brain, begins scanning your own muscles for betrayal. You feel your leg twitch. You're fine. It's nothing. It's just, wait, was that another twitch? And suddenly you're not thinking about dancing. You're thinking, am I next? That's when the city truly goes insane, because the fear of joining becomes a trigger itself. Stress, hunger, heat, disease, any of these can weaken a mind, but the crowd finishes the job. The dancers become a mirror, showing everyone the worst possibility, losing yourself in public. And every time someone new starts moving, the mirror whispers, see, it's real, it's happening, it's coming. Story 2. A city that heard a story and treated it like a siren. Fast forward. Radios glow in living rooms like tiny moons. A voice speaks, calm, professional, trusted. And the voice begins telling a story about danger. Not a movie, not a once upon a time. Danger presented like breaking news, reports, interruptions, locations. The kind of format your brain automatically tags as reality. Some listeners tune in late. They miss the setup. They hear urgency without context. And here's the important part. When you're scared, your brain becomes lazy. It doesn't analyze, it triages. It asks one question. What do I do right now? People start calling neighbors. Neighbors call neighbors. Someone says they saw lights in the distance. Someone else says they heard explosions. And suddenly the city isn't reacting to the radio, it's reacting to itself. One family loads the car. The next family sees them loading and thinks, they know something. Another family grabs a suitcase. Another person grabs a gun. Another person grabs their kids. The streets fill with vehicles, because nothing screams real emergency like a line of humans trying to escape. This is mass panic's favorite trick. It makes every other person look like evidence. At this stage, the original threat is almost irrelevant. The crowd has become the threat. A rumor is no longer a sentence, it's a movement. People jam the roads, they flood phone lines. They demand information and create misinformation at the same time. And the most terrifying feeling in the world appears. You don't know what's happening, but you know everyone else is acting like it's happening. So you act too, because doing nothing feels like dying. Even if the danger is imaginary, the panic is real. Real tears, real heart attacks, real families separated in traffic, real injuries and stampedes to get out. And later, when the truth finally catches up, the question becomes, how did we get here? How did a voice and a format and a crowd turn into chaos? Answer: because trust is a shortcut and fear steals the steering wheel. Story 3. A city that watched one disaster multiply into 10. Now imagine a normal day shattered by something physical. Not a rumor, not a story. A sound like the world cracking open. Something huge fails. A wall, a tank, a barrier, a structure meant to hold back force, and it doesn't. A wave rushes into streets where people were standing 2 seconds ago. And this is where panic becomes animal. Because the danger is visible, but it's also unpredictable. Water, smoke, fire, collapse. Your brain can't calculate it in real time. So it defaults to the oldest survival algorithm. Run with the herd. People sprint without seeing where they're going. They vault fences. They shove. They scream instructions that aren't instructions, just fear-wearing words. Some run toward safety. Some run into dead ends. Some freeze because their brain is trying to understand instead of escape. And understanding is slow. And every time someone falls, the crowd's panic spikes, because fallen bodies are proof. Proof that this is not a drill. Proof that physics has entered the chat. This is when cities look insane from above. Thousands of tiny decisions made at once, colliding like particles. One person screams, "This way," and 50 people follow. Another person screams, "No, that way," and 50 people collide with the first 50. And now the panic is no longer about the original disaster. It's about not getting trampled. It's about not being the slowest animal in the stampede. Authorities arrive and try to create order. But order is a language that fear doesn't speak well. Fear speaks in volume, motion, and imitation. The crowd copies whatever looks confident, which means a single confident idiot can steer hundreds into catastrophe. That's the darkest truth of mass panic. It's not just that people become irrational, it's that they outsource their thinking to whoever looks like they have a plan. Story 4. A city that became haunted by something it couldn't see. This is the why story, the one that feels like a glitch. Nothing explodes, nothing collapses, no wave hits the streets, and yet people run. Because someone says they smelled something strange. Because someone says they felt sick. Because someone says a shadow moved. And then the city does what cities do. It turns one person's sensation into a communal reality. A school reports dizziness. Another school reports dizziness. A factory reports dizziness. A neighborhood reports dizziness. The symptoms spread faster than any chemical ever could. You can't measure it. You can't photograph it. You can't point to it and say, "There, that's the monster." So your brain fills the gap with imagination. And imagination under stress is not your friend. People begin scanning the air for threat. Every cough becomes suspicious. Every throat tickle becomes proof. And once you believe a threat is invisible, you become the perfect host for panic. Because you can never confirm safety, you can only keep checking. The city becomes a giant nervous system, firing alarms at itself. Hospitals fill, phone lines burn, rumors mutate. It's poison, it's a curse, it's an attack, it's in the water, it's in the air. And the moment the crowd believes the story becomes a physical force. People flee, businesses shut, streets empty, sirens scream. A city doesn't need a monster to look haunted. It only needs enough frightened people imagining the same monster. Now zoom out. Different centuries, different triggers, dancing in the street, a radio voice, a sudden disaster, an invisible threat. So why do these stories rhyme? Here's the spine of it. Mass panic happens when uncertainty meets a social amplifier. Uncertainty is the spark. You don't know what's happening. The social amplifier is the crowd. You see what others are doing. When people around you act like danger is real, your brain treats their behavior as information. Because for most of human history, the fastest way to survive was to copy the tribe. If everyone ran from the grass, you ran too. You didn't stop to debate whether it was a lion. You ran first and asked questions later. Modern cities are just tribes with better lighting. That means panic spreads through attention, imitation, authority, and momentum. Attention turns events into stages. Imitation turns stages into trends. Authority turns trends into truth. And momentum turns truth into chaos. That's the why behind the insanity. It's not that a city is made of buildings. A city is made of nervous systems stacked on top of each other. And when enough nervous systems synchronize, you get a crowd. And when a crowd gets scared, you get a new creature. A creature that runs. A creature that tramples. A creature that dances until it collapses. A creature that hears a voice on the radio and treats it like God. So if you ever find yourself in the middle of a city going insane, here's the rule that might save you. Don't follow the loudest person. Follow the calmest evidence. Because panic's greatest weapon is not danger. It's the feeling that everyone else knows something you don't. And that feeling, right there, is how a city loses its mind. And
it's empty.